Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Freddie Williams. If you're new to my channel, my thing that I commentate a lot on and that I'm doing a lot of research on is DID, aka split personality disorder. With that being said, I'm going to go a bit more in depth on what alters are, because I'm sure a lot of people are confused about what are alters. So what are alters? When we are children, we are not born with a unified personality. We are born with a bunch of ego states that have their own functions. For instance, one ego state may be in control of eating, one may be in control of becoming attached to people that are good, or, one may be in charge of figuring out what's good or bad or what's scary, so on and so forth. Different states of being. Around the age of 6 to 9 is when the ego states, not personalities, become a unified personality. Now, if that happens, DID cannot happen. You cannot have, aka split personality disorder. It will not happen. The trauma and the splitting has to happen in between that time for you to have DID. Repeated severe trauma is what makes the ego states conflict with each other. Say, for instance, one of the ego states doesn't agree with the one that eats, doesn't like what the one that eats does, thinks that the one that eats is dark or evil. They will not come together. They're at conflict. And that happens with trauma. All of the ego states are made from trauma, but they can be split from different things, like down the line, which I'll get into more. Now, ANP is apparently normal parts, and what that means is that's usually what the host is. I'm a host. I'm the main host, who everyone knows, Freddie. And I go about life. Nobody will ever know that I had DID, unless I wanted them to. But as far as anybody knows, I'm your typical everyday person. I'm normal as hell. You would never know. I cook, clean, work, do whatever I have to do, for the most part, but you would not really know. You wouldn't know. Okay? So I'm an ANP. EPs are emotional parts, and they hold the trauma. The apparently normal parts do not hold trauma. We do not hold on to it. We can go about life like nothing bothers us, by the way. I meant to say that. EPs, they hold trauma and they feel it. They're emotional, they're passionate. Sometimes you can pretty much tell when an EP is around because the whole, emotional thing changes. But they are there to protect the host from emotional trauma. They have all of that, they keep it separate from, the main. Me anyway. I feel like I'm a mixture of EP and ANP. Once you have it, you can split throughout any time in your life. Like, I can have a split until the day I pass. Yay. I mean, it's not such a bad thing, but, Alters can be formed for other reasons than trauma, by the way. I did not really know that. Because they all stem from trauma at first, but later on, you can have an alter form because of happiness, joy, or any kind of different kind of emotion, which is very interesting. I did not know that. Like, for instance, I had an alter form when I was incarcerated, and her name is Tati. I wasn't traumatized while I was in there, but I really needed some peace of mind, and I just really was going through a spiritual growth thing and a change and stuff, and she was formed between me and this other guy. She was a combination of someone that I was talking to. It was very interesting. Is she still around? She, very peaceful, it's very interesting. I also found out that the alters can grow and and they change, which I knew, personally, like that they change and grow because I'll notice things like they change in age, they evolve mentally, they can become anything. I'm going to talk about my system, my inner world when it comes to the altars. Like I'll bring up KW, like when I met or when I accepted KW, I should say, and I heard her voice. I mentioned that in one of the other videos. After I accepted her, not still knowing that she was an altar, I thought she was a spirit, she was the only one I communicated with for a long time, like decades or more. Like I don't remember communicating with any other altar except for KW, Kathleen White, for like decades. And then because my memory is shoddy, I think sometime in my late teens to my early 20s is when I started to experience different ones, or at least be aware of them. Like I knew there were others there, but I never, I guess, acknowledged them. But you don't have to, because they'll still do their stuff. Like some of them work internally and do their own thing, and sometimes you're not aware of them, but they're there. Sometimes they don't even want you to know that they're there. It's interesting. They're their own thing. They're their own people. They have their own will. And so like, yeah, when I need to explain how I see KW and everything, and how I see the altars. It's called, like, they're all in a system, is what I've heard from the DID people, community. But it's like a world, an inner world, and it's just as real as the world that you and I live in. Like flesh and blood is just as real. You're dealing with people that have different personalities, they conflict, they have different wants, needs, sexualities, genders, anything and everything is in that community. It is a world within a world. Now remember that I was communicating with altars the whole time I had KW. I just thought they were spirits. I didn't realize they were altars. So, but, I didn't realize that they were forming well-rounded personalities and all that stuff either. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know I had DID. So, like I was explaining the inner world, and when I see them, it's not like, okay, there's a chair over here, and I see KW sitting in that chair. No, I don't see them in our world at all. Hardly at all. I don't think so. Like, it's like this inner world is superimposed on this world. Like, in the inner world, KW may just be standing there, like on a sidewalk or something. But she's over there. I know she's over there. I see the sidewalk. I see where she's standing. I see what she's wearing. I see what she looks like. It's interesting. It's really interesting. Sometimes I put my own thoughts on it, and they correct me. My visualizations of them it gets deep. There's so many layers to it, and they don't quite understand everything. So when you see me being co-conscious, and I'm talking to them, and I'm looking, that's because that's where they are. They're right there, or right there, or right there. So anyway, I hope that explains it somewhat, because it can be complicated. But I kind of want people's ideas on, like, what would you be interested to know about my altars, because they're starting to get used to talking on camera. Like, I have a TikTok, like, check it out. Like, Fredra, one of my altars, she's on there. She has a continuous story, but it's just cool. She's the first one to really let loose on camera. And so maybe I'll do a video in the future and put it here, but, I'm gonna get more into that too. But I'm just trying to explain what I see and do how I experienced this. So the whole time it's like I'm going through life thinking that these spirits are spirits and that they're not alters, not realizing that. But KW is the main one I talk to anyway. And when new ones would come in, I would know because they'd have a different voice or a different feel or a different energy to them. But you can always tell when there's a new one. And whenever there's a new alter, I'm like, and they talk to me, I'm like, who is that? Like, it's like meeting a new person or a stranger, because it is. Like, who are you? What's your name? I literally have to learn who some of them are, just like people. Like, and I don't know, their skills or whatever. Now that I'm aware that they're alters, it's interesting, like, I'm taking it a different way. But it's just interesting how brilliant and what the mind can do. Mind me for being so scattered because, like, going through some things with my tooth and stuff, and that's why I'm late with my video and but anyway,